Welcome to the Dagger. We're your hosts, Ramsey, Makan, and Rajan Rao, and we are an NBA and NFL podcast. And this is two college students here, and this is our pilot episode. So welcome, first-time listeners, and if you're a future listener coming back and hearing about how we made it big, where we all started, then we'd like to welcome you to the greatest success story ever told. And we're gonna start by just talking about a little bit about who we are. So we're both college students. I'm 20. Rajan, you're 20, 19?
I'm 19. 19.
Okay, almost there. I attend the University of Florida. I'm a sophomore. Rajan,
I'm a sophomore at the University of Miami.
right? And how do we know each other?
We met in high school. I think Ramsey was in my biology class in ninth grade for like a couple days, and then he got switched out. And
Yeah.
then COVID happened, and so I didn't really know him until we both joined the Quiz Bowl team, which is basically like an academic style of trivia.
Right.
We got really close through that. But I don't think we really realized how much we both love sports until probably after the end of senior year. And as we started to hang out when we'd come home for breaks from college, we'd realize like we started talking about stuff or we'd make jokes about like NBA Twitter or like LeBron or whatever. And we realized that we both love talking about sports, and we both have gotten into listening to some podcasters and going to live games, going to Magic games. We're both from Orlando.
Yep.
So this is kind of our way to kind of channel our shared love for sports along with our friendship, and that's what kind of makes it unique to the world.
Yeah.
And like get it recorded and put on a streaming thing. So
Yeah, we love talking about sports, and we love to have fun. We're trying to keep in touch. This is a really great way to do that, and continue outputting our love for how much we like basketball and football in particular. And yeah, I guess we should talk a bit about why we are fans. So, do you want to start first, Rajan?
sure. For me, it was when my dad took me to my first Magic game, and it was against the Warriors, and it was around 2011 or 2012. So this is before even though it was only a couple years before they won the championship, it was long enough before that people weren't really recognizing how great they were, and it was really just Steph. Like Steph was the guy. And yeah, seeing him live was just like the craziest thing ever. It was like I have just such fond memories of that, and that's kind of what got me into basketball. And then I have some family in Seattle, and when I started getting into football is right when they won the Super Bowl. And so pairing my family that lives in Seattle with my like newfound appreciation or I guess knowledge of football, I kind of became a bandwagon fan of the Seahawks. So
Yep.
I would say primarily I'm a Warriors and Seahawks guy. I'm also a Magic guy because I'm from Orlando. But the love for the Seahawks has not diminished as they've gotten worse and worse, over the years, which has been sad to see. But I'm hopeful for the future. And yeah, as Steph and the core from Golden State kind of retire, I still plan on appreciating the Warriors, but I think I'll be a Magic fan almost completely. So
Here's a question, completely unrelated. If the NBA adds the Supersonics back in Seattle, are they going to become your number one team?
it's hard to say no to that because I love the culture of that city so much. Like the people there are awesome and they're totally my type of people. But at the same time, I've been born and raised in Orlando my whole life. So I'm going to say yes, but it wouldn't stop my love for the Magic. I think I'd root for both teams. So
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, so I have not lived in Orlando my whole life, unlike Rajan. I was born in Connecticut and spent almost my entire life there up until I was 14 in 2019 when I moved to Orlando. But anyway, living in Southwest Connecticut, I did become a fan of the Northeast teams, and it's really because of my family. My mom's father and his wife, my mom's parents, they lived in Massachusetts for a long time and became Boston sports fans. And so my mom grew up just seeing a lot of Red Sox, Celtics, Patriots stuff. Meanwhile, my dad grew up in Queens, New York, and he was kind of a Knicks fan, but he also just liked playing basketball and watching MJ. It was the 90s and everything. And late 80s. He had one of those amazing posters of MJ dunking from the free throw line. And yeah, then he met my mom over a summer in high school. They went to college near each other. They moved and lived together in Boston after they finished school. And working in downtown Boston, really close to the Celtics stadium, my dad immediately became a Celtics fan. Also by marrying into my mom's family, of course, that certainly contributes. And he would take her dad to Patriots and Celtics games when he was able to go with his job. And so that's mostly it. When I was brought into the world in 2005, my entire family we were in Connecticut. We were Celtics and Patriots fans, and the Celtics won the championship in 2008. I was an unconscious little baby, and eventually I became a fan in like 2012, 2013 when I started actually playing basketball and like following them. And the Celtics were terrible, but obviously they've been an amazing historic franchise. So I'm grateful to be brought into that world. As you can tell by the gear behind me, I've followed them, and that foam finger I think is from a game when I was a really small kid.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, I have a memory of like Brandon Bass block. I can talk about those 2012, 13, 14 Celtics teams. But yeah, so I'm very grateful, for my dad for bringing me into the world of basketball. He coached a basketball team I was on when I played travel in elementary school. He ran basketball in our small town in Connecticut, even in middle school. And but we moved to Orlando. I became a part-time Magic fan. So I got this shirt here too. We like going to Magic games when we can. Part-time Buccaneers fan because man, I was a Patriots fan. I moved the same summer Tom Brady did, so that was extremely convenient. And and then so those are my four teams, if you will. And yeah, I love rooting for, I think, the New England teams more often, but even my dad often is rooting for the Magic over the Celtics just because he likes to see the underdog. And so, like you and I, Celtics and Warriors fans, this sounds like rough fan bases, but we also are big Magic fans and we represent very different sides of fandoms. And so,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I'm very blessed that the Celtics won the championship last year. I've spent a lot of years on my Instagram story talking about the Celtics, and so getting to blab about that and tell my story there was great. And I even used to have my own Instagram account. I just mentioned this alley oop analytics, and so now here with the dagger with Rajan, we're hoping to bring that back. Combine our love, talk about more sports, much more about the NFL than I ever did. I really just focus on the NBA. Touch on college when we can. We both go to big D1 schools. And yeah, it's exciting, man. We're here for a long journey.
Yes, yeah, and that's exactly why we're doing this thing is because we have individually talked about sports with our families or on your Instagram story for years now, and you know it's so accessible now to just market what you have and what we'd like to do. And the
Yeah.
other, I think, reason why we're doing this podcast is because of some inspirations. So
Mm,
I can talk about Bill Simmons all day or Tony Kornheiser, Ryan
mhm.
Russillo. Like these are people that like I grew up listening to in the car with my dad as he'd drive me to sports games or like I'm a music student at University of Miami, so like concerts or whatever. We'd listen to that. That was our way of spending time together and talking about sports when we couldn't watch all the games together. Um, and as I've like kind of spent time, of course, away from home at college, whenever I come home, that's like kind of how we connect. Is like, oh, did you catch the Simmons podcast and whatever, and like that's kind of our way of doing things. And so that's kind of we want to create this accessible college age, younger, different take on things, version of what we love to listen to and what we love consuming. So yeah.
Yeah, I think would like to be able to bring you guys different opinions and everything. And I know there are a lot of sports podcasts out there, but we're here to have fun and provide our own take. Bring on our own friends and family to provide theirs. And yeah, for my inspirations, I agree. You actually put me on definitely to Bill Simmons recently. I really like listening to his stuff. A lot of what the Ringer does. I've been a fan of Kenny Beecham and KOT4Q and numbers on the board and enjoy basketball. Those recent brands are pretty like new, but Kenny's been around for years and I've watched his videos for a long time. And I follow a bunch of other people, basketball fans and analysts on Twitter and YouTube and everything. So I mentioned guys like Funky Diabetic. He's my favorite basketball YouTuber. Thinking Basketball, Jimmy High Roller. Like we've always watched these videos and now that we have this platform here, we're able to watch the games ourselves, combine all our takes. And by the way, I'm a math and comp sci student, so hopefully I can talk about analytics in a fun way. And I don't know, we're excited to see where it goes. But yeah.
Yeah. So coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit about Shea versus Jokic, the
Mhm.
OKC versus Denver debate. Who's going to get the 1 seed? Who's going to be the best team? Who's more scary? Who should get the MVP? It's all coming up next.
On the dagger. Welcome back. Yes. So the NBA season, we're in mid-March right now. This is being recorded on March 13th, 2025. And there's about only 15, 20 games left for most of these NBA teams. And the MVP race is closing in, right? The entire season, it's basically been about two guys. Some have dropped in, some have dropped out. The odds have shifted a lot. You and I aren't sports bettors, but it's very useful information to take a look at these like money lines and everything to see who's favored for things, right? And so
True.
right now, I can check later, but right now Shea is favored. I want to say he's minus 200. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and Nikola Jokic on the Denver Nuggets, of course, is second place. And the argument is who deserves MVP. And so there's really two sides of the coin, right? It's clearly, and this has always been the MVP debate for every year of the NBA's existence. Do you reward the best player on the best team or the best player in the league, right?
Hmm.
And often they're the same person, and then the answer is very simple. For example, unanimous MVP Steph Curry, 2016. That man clearly the best player in the league on the best player in the the best player in the league on the best team. No debate. That's why it was unanimous, you know?
Yep.
And but it's not always true. And sometimes it can be hard. Sometimes even there's more criteria. There can be three guys in the running. And so it's just interesting to think about, right? For reference, Nikola Jokic has 3 MVPs. SGA, of course, has 0. If Jokic were to get his 4th MVP, he would be tied with Wilt Chamberlain and LeBron James. And I think he would join one of, I want to say, 6 or 7 players to have 4 or more MVPs. And for reference, LeBron has finished top 2 or 3 in MVP voting and not first. Like, I want to say about 6 times, okay? In 2006, he was second place behind Steve Nash when he was a really young player in the league. In 2011, people thought he deserved that MVP when his first year in Miami. He was third. That was the D Rose year, right? In 2018, he was second behind James Harden, but that was in the incredible year from Harden. And by the way, LeBron definitely, including the playoffs, was the best player in the world. I don't think anybody can argue the 2018 Bron thing, but Harden was the best player, and I would be willing to say on the best team. Obviously, the Warriors were a better team, but like if you look at what Harden did for the Rockets in the regular season, he carried them so unbelievably hard. 2020 LeBron versus Giannis, LeBron was second. Giannis definitely deserved that though. But anyway, LeBron in another universe has, I don't know, 9 MVPs, right? But some people think that he had all these seconds and thirds because of a narrative. That's the whole thing. Like the media, the people that vote for the MVPs, they want to control narratives about how many MVPs the best players in the world get. And so the question is, will Jokic ever get a 4th MVP, or is his level of greatness doing himself a disservice because he's already won it? Is it bringing his odds down? Do you think so?
It's hard to say. First of all, I just checked the odds. Right now, Shea is winning at minus 600 and Jokic
Ah,
is plus 400.
so they've changed a
So,
lot in the last few days now.
and I think a lot of it has to do with how well Shea played in the games versus
Yeah,
the Nuggets.
they had a back-to-back
Um,
for reference on March 9th and 10th. The Thunder won the first one, the Nuggets won the second one, but I would say Shea played extremely well in both. Shea also played really well yesterday against the Celtics. So yeah.
so the it's hard to say because it's like what you said. Jokic has been playing so well for so long that his floor is just so high that I wonder if the voters are like opposed to giving him an MVP when he's not playing exceptionally above his regular level. The problem is his regular level is just so exceptionally above the rest of the freaking league that
Mm-hmm.
it's just hard to quantify and put into numbers. Like we talked about this before about how high the offensive rating is on the Nuggets when he's on the court versus how I mean they're last in the league when he's not on the court and they're first when he's on the court. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like he has such a big impact, but also is it because like he is like the only guy on the team, or is it because he has a great supporting cast that kind of lets him play how he wants to play? Like I saw a lot of things in discourse about him stat padding and him like I mean like every offensive set runs through him, which you could view as him being the most valuable player, or you could view as him getting the most opportunity to have
Right.
rebounds, to have assists, to have points, to have these like quantifying
Hmm.
metrics.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So I want to talk about that. So let's just look at the pure counting stats, right? Shea, most points in the league. He's averaging 32.8. That's incredible. He's averaging 6.2 rebounds. Sorry, 6.2 assists, 5.1 rebounds. Great numbers for a point guard, obviously. Those numbers are on par with like some of the greatest MVP point guard seasons in history. Steph Curry and James Harden. I think Harden obviously had a lot more rebounds and assists, but like Curry was similar. MJ, his shooting guard, even his best MVP years, Kobe, like Shea's season alone, very similar to them. He's also averaging 1.8 steals, which is among the top in the league. He's ninth in the league. Yep. And about a block. And also his efficiency is ridiculously good. If you're curious about his stats, he is shooting 52% from field goal, regular field goal percentage, and for a point guard, that's usually unheard of. 38% from the 3-point line and a 90% free throw shooter. So yeah, 52, 37, 90. Usually you like to look at the 50, 40, 90 club. That's amazing, right? Okay. That being said, Nikola Jokic has 29 points. That's third. Shea is first. He has 13 rebounds. That's third in the league. Again, Shea is nowhere close. He has 10.4 assists. That's second. No player in NBA history has ever finished top three in all of those major stats. He is averaging a triple double, which has been done before, such as Russ a few years ago and Oscar Robertson way back when. But this alone could be Jokic's best season. It's not his career high in rebounds, and not even in points either, I don't think. But Jokic is still getting better. He has not dropped off in the slightest. But and I don't think if you attach their names, I don't think if you attach how many previous MVPs they had, I think if Jokic was born yesterday and just appeared on the face of the earth or appeared, at the beginning of the season, he'd be a clear front runner. But he has done this before, and we've seen how great they are. So pure regular stats, I feel like Jokic should wipe him, but I want to talk a bit about the reasons why that might not be the case, right? So, in your opinion, Rajan, what do you think happens when you swap Shea to the Nuggets and Jokic to the Thunder? Because I think that the Nuggets drop significantly, and I think that the Thunder get better, or at least the Thunder barely drop at all.
Yeah, I okay, the first thing is you gotta look at each team, right? And the Nuggets, like the biggest strength of or I feel like the biggest problem in the NBA in terms of how teams are built today, it's not necessarily a problem, but it's a difference in how the game used to be played. The
Yep.
game today is very much small ball focused. We see a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
centers that are 6'9", maybe 6'10" max, and they
Mm-hmm.
can all shoot and they can all run. Like and like the first thing that I think of is Bam Adebayo. Bam is
Yeah.
not a huge center. He's 6'9", but he can run, he can set the pace, and even though the Heat are not great, in the couple years ago when they had the Jimmy Butler crazy playoff run, I mean they could just run, and that was
Right.
the way they played. It was 3-point shots and it was drive and kick, drive and kick. So by
I would bring
having
up for this season the Knicks are playing small ball, and the OKC without Chet and Ihart have been doing that.
so then to that point, then if you put Jokic on the Thunder, they
Mm-hmm.
no longer have someone to consistently handle the ball,
Right.
but they have someone that can pass and facilitate the offense the same way, if not better than Shea did. I mean,
Right.
Shea's not averaging the assists that Jokic is, and I know I just said that it could be that Jokic is just like setting every single play and is always the one going through the offense, and like maybe that's why he has so many assists. But if you watch some of the passes he makes, he dictates what's happening on the court. You can see him pointing and like
Yeah.
directing traffic, and then throws a backdoor into dunk. It's like
He's the
I feel
smartest
like
player in the NBA. I think so,
easily
right?
it's not even close.
And
I feel like Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
You could say he's one of the smartest players in NBA history. That's not a
Yes,
crazy take at all. And
it's not crazy.
I just want to say, I actually think that swapping them might be a bad exercise. Let's talk about how the Thunder and Nuggets would be doing if you just removed them. Okay, if both of them
Hmm.
disappeared,
Okay. Okay.
because
This is more on the most valuable player
right,
type of
this is the
conversation.
conversation. Who's actually more valuable to their team? As you said, what did you say about the Nuggets again? What are they like when Jokic is not there?
They're the worst offensive team in the league.
Yes, right. I mean, at least they were a few months ago when that stat was going around. They are terrible, and I'll pull that up right now. Meanwhile, the Thunder, when Shea is not there, how do they do?
They're still pretty freaking good. They still have a lot of playmakers. Lou Dort is still on the court. That rhymes. They still have defensive masters. The two Jalen Williams are like both still they can give you 20, 25 any given night. And they can alternate between and then they still have Isaiah Hartenstein who I believe he had 26 against a team in the last week or so. He went off and it's like they still have a ton of big pieces. I don't see. I mean, I think the problem is that we see the Nuggets and we see this like we see these names on paper, right? We see Russell Westbrook and Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon
MPJ.
and MPJ. Yeah, it's like these names. You're like, oh, they must be stacked, but like it's not in the same way that the Thunder players can just give you points the way that they can. It's not. It's different, and so when Shea's into a system like that, I think it takes a lot of the pressure off for him. He doesn't have to be perfect every single night the way that Jokic I feel like has to be perfect every single night.
I think he
It
has
is
to be.
unheard of for a center to be leading the team in assists, rebounds, and points. That is unheard
Yes,
of, and that to me that shows his value the most. It is like you have a guy that can do everything. And so if he isn't scoring well one night or he's not making his passes or he's missing the rebounds, he has so many other ways he can contribute. If you take Shea's points
incredible.
away, he is just an average sixth man bench role player that can come in and give some maybe 20, 25 minutes a game and get those types of stats on the rebounds and assists side, in my opinion.
I think he has. I think he is the best scorer in the league right now, and so it's kind of just unfair to say if he's not if he can't do his scoring.
That's true.
But like I do think Jokic overall contributes more, and I just want to mention I like looking at net rating for most analyzing most NBA teams. I think it's one of the best stats we have. So if you look at Jokic, when he's on the court, the Nuggets have a plus 10.6 net rating, okay? Which is fantastic. And I'm looking at like in the league for the season, that's third in the league behind the Thunder and the Cavs, okay? The
Okay.
Nuggets for the season actually as a whole are fifth at 4.5, right? Anyway, when Jokic is off the court, they have a negative 7.7 rating, right? That is third worst in the league.
Can I
Just
guess who's
above,
lower?
oh yeah. Who do you think is lower?
Would
Bottom
it
two.
be the Jazz?
No, they're almost there though.
Wait,
Who's a
who?
bottom feeder right now in the East?
The Wizards.
Yes, the
Okay,
Wizards, and
Wizards.
then I'll give you the other one because it might be hard to guess. The Pelicans.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
was
they've
gonna
had a
have gone
terrible
that.
season, right? Anyway, so yeah, -7. So anyway, the on-off differential net rating about plus 18. The differential
Oh,
for Shea, it's about a plus 12. Shea, when he's on the court, they're plus 15.8. That is incredible. That is, by the way, the best in the league, higher than the Thunder are as a team overall. But when he's off the court, they're still a plus 3. Okay?
hmm.
Plus 3 is like eighth, ninth in the league. So basically, when Shea is off the court, they play at the level of the Clippers, Warriors, and Timberwolves.
Warriors.
Okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Those are all extremely good teams that will make the playoffs. And I think if Shea were to disappear from the earth, the Thunder would still make the playoffs. That's how good they are. Even if you restart the season, obviously they already have this many wins. But like, if Jokic disappeared, the Nuggets don't do anything. Nothing. He and both the teams have been completely built around those star players. So like, obviously the team is built to rely on Jokic, and so that connects back to what you said of like it's going to be unfair to compare about how important he is because the team was built for him to be important. Like he was given that
Hmm.
job.
Right. So it's kind of unfair for me to say if Shea wasn't scoring points one night, then he wouldn't do as much. But at the same time, the Thunder still have these scorers that can still play, and they still if they're plus 3 without Shea and they're the equivalent of like just paint that picture in your mind right now. The Thunder without Shea are equal to a Warriors team that has Steph, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, like all these like people that we view and we see and they're starters on this team. And
Right.
and they're equal, not even like greater than. That is like that they are still an incredible team. Like
The
they would
Thunder are
totally.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we're going to talk about this. I think the Thunder are the best team in the NBA. And the
Mhm.
problem is that a knock on Shea's case for MVP? Or if anything, does it help him? Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Just the OKC team. Okay.
Sure.
So OKC is extremely good. They're the best team in the NBA. Actually, the Cavs probably have a better record than them right now, right? Yeah, by 2 games, yeah. But best team in the West by far. Shea is unguardable. I think he has these offensive moves that like no player can defend, and players are very afraid to defend him. Obviously, the man gets a lot of foul calls, and so people don't like watching him. By the end of the day, you can't knock Shea for being really, really good at what he does. And I believe I saw somewhere that if you take away all points due to free throws, Shea's first. So it's not even that crazy that he is still leading the league, even if you take all of that away. Like the man is an incredible, gifted scorer, and he can pull up, drive, get past most big men, draw fouls. It's a talent, right? And people don't like admitting
I
that.
that was I was gonna say that's the only argument that I have besides the how well his team plays without him being on the court was that when he uh when he scores, I always see free throws, and I saw this meme about how like his top 5 shots were just of the season were just free throws. Um, but if the thing if the thing is if he's still number one in the league and you eliminate all the free throws, then you really can't argue with that. You really cannot like you cannot say that he's not the best scorer in the league. It is just not you know.
Yeah, it looks to me right now that Shea averages 24.7 points without free throws, which is first. Second would be Giannis. Third would be Jokic. So, of course, we have a lot of really good players there.
He's in good company too. So what were you saying about Shea and OKC? I want to hear about what you think about if they're unguardable and how teams can approach
Right.
playing against them.
So I think OKC is it crazy to say they're the best defensive team in the NBA? Let me take a look at the net rating right now. Yeah, they are. Okay. They have the second best, or sorry, the best defensive rating at a 106. For defensive rating, of course, lower is better because that's basically describing the offensive rating of the team you're playing. And the Magic, our Magic, are second, by the way, even though they're terrible this year. Anyway, they run this incredible small ball defensive scheme thanks to their head coach, Mark Detna. And it's kind of a horizontal defense. There's a really great video by the YouTube channel Thinking Basketball. I'd recommend watching that. And it talks about how they have these switches and how fast they are. This team is incredibly fast on defense. And they're a small lineup, okay? Most of the season they haven't had Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. So they were running lineups without either of them, right? And there were sometimes lineups where Shea would be the biggest person on the court, right? That's crazy to think about. But they have this incredible bench depth. Guys like, I'm trying to think. Aaron Wiggins, right? We have obviously J Dub and Jay Will, who doesn't play as much. Isaiah Joe. We have some incredible wing defenders who are extraordinarily versatile and able to defend every single player on the court. Shea is a great defender. He usually guards, one of the bigger guards on the opposing team. Averages again 1.8 steals. But the problem is that now they have their 2 incredibly gifted defensive bigs. Chet Holmgren, who is a third year. I forget how long he's been in the league, but he's an
I think 3 years
incredible.
is right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. He's an incredible defender. Isaiah Hartenstein is that big body that they need. They signed him from the Knicks in the offseason. He's the exact type of person they need to counteract someone like Jokic, who, you might think that there's no way for the Thunder to stop Jokic because they don't have a big guy. First of all, the whole idea that you need a big man is kind of dwindling, and I'm going to talk about the Lakers later in this episode, and we're going to explain why they also, with an incredible coach, are able to defend teams without a big guy on the court, and that is an old adage that you need to have with someone like that. But if we take a look, the offensive rating when Chet and Ihart are both on the floor is a 128. That is extremely, extremely high. Way, way, way better than what we've seen, and that hasn't been in a lot of minutes. By the way, the defensive rating is a 118. not that great. Right now, the defensive rating with only Chet and not iHeart is a 103. That is very good. That's the best in the league. So we'll see how the defense works. I don't think that the defense with both of them is quite yet working with the double big. They're testing it out, and we have a lot more games left before the playoffs. But they're versatile, right? And so they can put two bigs on a big guy. Not that they would double team him, but I'm saying they can bring both of them out when they're facing larger opponents, or they can run them out the stadium. And so they're equipped to fight any team and counteract any sort of strength. And so I agree with a lot of people who think that in order to score against the Thunder, you really need a top however many player in the NBA, okay? Like Giannis is the type of guy that you need to score on the Thunder, right? Jokic,
LeBron.
duh. LeBron, sure, LeBron and Luka, and we're gonna talk about the Lakers. Like those guys are gifted enough. My Jason Tatum, I do think he can be counteracted often, but like I do think that he'd be able to store. And by the way, I know you're a Warriors fan. The Steph Curry thing is very real. I don't know. I obviously in the playoffs, I think the Thunder are better than the Warriors, but Curry is the type of guy that would make life harder on the Warriors or on the Thunder.
Absolutely.
It's not a. It's just pretty obvious.
I mean,
Um,
like, so I'm just looking at FanDuel again right now about the odds for
this
Defensive
guy.
Player of the Year, and there are 3 Thunder players in the top 8 in voting.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
Lou Dort
Lou
is
Dort. I
plus.
forgot to say his name. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
It is ridiculous how much depth they have, and it's like what you said. The fact that you can have how tall Shea is no more than 6'5" or 6'6". If I'm
Is it crazy to say he's 6'7"?
He might be 6'7". He, but regardless of how tall he is, the fact that he could be the biggest player on the court and they still have these defensive ratings that are this low
Mm-hmm.
is ridiculous. The only thing that I think they need to work on, obviously, like you said, is figuring out how to do the double big thing. Isaiah Hartenstein kind of seems like a different version of Steven Adams in like the older OKC
Oh,
days when they
sure.
made the runs,
Yeah.
and it's like a big body guy that can also score. But it's interesting to me that Chet is a better defensive player, at least statistically in terms of ratings, than
Yeah.
Isaiah Hartenstein, because I see Hartenstein play and I see someone that looks like an enforcer, a brick wall. If you're a 2K
Right.
hip type of guy, it's like he I've seen him block multiple shots in a row in the same possession. So regardless of what the stats say, they are stacked defensively on the big side too. And the idea of having to go against someone like Chet that can also shoot threes and they can run the floor on defense, and when he's tired, it's like a titan just like walked out into the court that has tattoos and is a redhead and like can destroy you. That is like scary in the playoffs because a lot of the things in the playoffs is like about how important defense is. Defense wins championships. Everyone talks about blocked by James and whatever. Like having these defensive guys is so much more important. I mean, everyone's going to be amped up on the offensive side. I think that everyone's floor is usually raised a little bit in the playoffs offensively, but it comes down to stamina and endurance. And like,
Yeah.
if we're going just by numbers, theoretically, you could have Chet play 24 minutes and you could have Hartenstein play 24 minutes and they wouldn't be winded at all. And that's like scary to think that they both could do that.
Yeah, it's incredible how well their team is crafted. Credit to their general manager Sam Presti for designing this perfect team who can balance so well. And yeah, you bring up a great point. If you want to talk about minutes per game, obviously Shea and J Dub play the most minutes at 34 and 32, but they don't have another player playing over 30 minutes, right? Lou Dort plays 29, iHeart plays 28, Casey Wallace 27, Chet 27, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, Alex Caruso. Oh my goodness, I didn't mention Alex Caruso. This is like that guy was on the second defensive team last year. Everybody on their team can guard almost anyone, switch almost anywhere, and they are so fast. They so deep. Like you want to talk about a team built to win a championship. I know that they're young, and was the next point I was going to bring up. They are young. Okay, I saw something recently that the Auburn men's basketball team, the number one college team in the country, is about a year younger average age than the Thunder. Like they're extremely close. And the Thunder have a bunch of young guys, and they have all these small contracts. That's how they're able to, I think, have such a good team. That's part of it. And I think they would be one of the youngest teams ever to win the championship. And so they're a dynasty in the making, right? They have all these picks to come. You can even look at the picks that are coming this year. If the 76ers do not have a top 6 pick. The Thunder get it. The Thunder could have the 8th pick in the draft and win the championship. This is an unbelievable, series of trades that he's made over the years. Look back at the Paul George trade and everything. And I think they deserve to be title favorites, but the question is, are they ready now? Right? So, by the way, if you want to talk about the finals, I am a Celtics fan. I think that the best matchup for them is the Celtics. So, just from yesterday's game, by the way, both really good games from Shea and Tatum. Shea had 34, 5, and 7, and Tatum had 33, 8, and 8. Both MVP caliber stat lines, right? My Celtics, mostly, I would say Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday were lacking a lot. They went combined 1 for 12 from 3, so just not where we needed to be. By the way, I don't know if you're looking at our notes right now, but if you want to guess, how many free throws? Okay, the Celtics shot 12 free throws. That's really low for the whole entire game. 12 is bad. How many do you think the
Right.
Thunder shot?
Well, I'm gonna say 25.
Try 35.
35.
Crazy.
How much of that was Shea?
That's a good question. I don't have that. I'll check right now. Anyway, also threes, by the way. Celtics shot 63 threes and the Thunder shot 37. So you can just look at this. These are two very different teams. Celtics fans I saw were complaining about the refs. I'm not gonna lie,
Mm.
like if the free throw disparity is 23 free throws, that is not the refs' fault. That comes down to your play style. Like clearly the Thunder are trying to draw fouls. We'll get into the Warriors, for example. The Warriors have been killing it in the way they draw fouls. That's a talent that a team can have. I think that the Thunder and the Celtics will match up very well, and I think we can spend a future episode talking about that matchup because I think that finals at this point is almost inevitable. But
Yeah.
there are other contenders. And by the way, final thing, Jokic, he's a gift. If you had an MVP vote and we were prominent members in the media, who would you vote for?
It would have to be Jokic for me because to post a 30-20-20 stat line while also seeming like you don't even care about the NBA and like you don't even enjoy playing it to work for you, that's
Man.
just like it's just greatness watching him play. And I I don't feel the same level of like, holy crap, that guy's gonna just like when I see Jokic play, I'm like seriously starting to say like this could be a top 5 offensive player ever. Like that's the type of guy that I'm looking at right now. And to have already won 3 MVPs and to only get better, like by all metrics, he should be winning it. I do think that the Thunder are the favorites to win the West. I think they'll probably beat the Nuggets just because they're more physical, like you said, against the Celtics, who we think of as a pretty defensively strong team. Having Drew Holiday, a former Defensive Player of the Year, both the Jays can play defense.
Derek
Like we
White.
don't think of them as a walkover team that just kind of is flops and whatever. But for the Thunder to draw 35 fouls on them or whatever the number was, that's like that just shows you how much tougher they are and how much longer they'll last in a long, stretched out series. And also what you said about the minutes. I mean, if they're not playing more than 30 something minutes a game at max for their 2 best guys, that means they're all resting a decent amount and they're all going to be healthy. I think
Mm-hmm.
LeBron has played at least 40 minutes almost the entire season. Now he's out for 2 weeks with a groin injury in a critical time stretch in terms of like games that you need to win to get to the playoffs and make sure you're in the play-in. Like I'm sure the Lakers will be fine because they still have Luka, but it's like managing those injuries and managing those minutes. It just seems like the Thunder are poised to win the championship. But if I had to cast a vote for MVP, I mean, who are the Nuggets without Jokic? Like who? Like
Yeah,
there's nothing.
that's basically it. I respect Shea a lot, and I think he deserves the MVP, but I would also give it to Jokic. I'm sorry. We need to kind of stop the narrative of you need to be the best team because the
Mhm.
Nuggets, by the way, are the 3 seed. Like, and without Jokic, they would be crawling for a playing spot. By the way, yesterday the Celtics shot 10 for 12 from the free throw line. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander 10 for 11. So there you go. He made as many free throws as the entire team.
Ridiculous.
But don't not a knock on him. That's what we were talking about. All right. So that's enough of the top guys in the West, and let's move on to the Celtics and the Cavs. So I'm a diehard Celtics fan. I'm thank God every day that we won the championship last year, and pray to my Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown jerseys in my closet over there. And I don't have a much to say on us right now. I want to do a much better analysis of the Celtics later, but I kind of just want to talk about us in conjunction with the Cavaliers, who obviously are the best team in the NBA right now. That's not even a debate. They are 55-10, so they're gonna win. I'm guessing 68 games would be my guess. If they I think they've won 15 or 16 in a row. So it's not out of this world that they win 70, by the way. Like if they went perfect, they would tie the Bulls. That probably won't happen because they'd have to win 17 in a row, right? But if they go say 15-2, they win 70-12. Like, oh my goodness. Okay, anyway, the Celtics as a team and their fans, we're not concerned about having the 1 seed. It sucks, I guess, for that series, that conference final series that most people are expecting. Um, and we're incredible. In certain elements, we're slipping. We've dropped a lot of games to random bad teams. And I think we need Porzingis back and healthy. I think in general, we need some of our other guys to find their groove more, like Drew, who I mentioned, has been on a pretty bad slump, including yesterday against the Thunder. But I want to talk about the Cavaliers. So they are the best team in the NBA. And they have a little slight inexperience too. So the thing about the Thunder and the Cavs, I saw something on Reddit weeks ago that showed a stat that was like every team in NBA history except for two, I think. One was a long time ago, and the other one was the 2015 Warriors. That was the first time they won with Curry. Every other team in the NBA previously had been in a conference finals. So that's interesting, right? And by previously, I mean like in like a really like recent time stretch. The Thunder have never been to a conference finals. They've been good for years, but like they always come a little bit short in the playoffs. And now, obviously, they're the best. The Cavs also with this new lineup have not made the conference finals. You
So
could
the
argue.
argument is that. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say the playoff experience is not there for either of these teams. You could argue they're not ready. Are the lights too bright? I mean, if we had a Thunder Cavs matchup in the finals, obviously the experience gets thrown out the window. But when you play a team like the Nuggets, who won the championship, the Celtics, who won the championship, you even look at like the Lakers and the Warriors in the West, and you get scared for the Thunder. Like, does experience matter that much? Do you think it does?
For those early round matchups, I would say no,
Okay,
because like the stat is that if you haven't made a conference championship, then it's unlikely that you win the championship, that win the actual finals in the
yeah,
next couple of years, right?
that's what it
So,
was.
and the only team to get through that was the Warriors.
This
So
century, yes,
that's ridiculous. I think that if anyone was going to do it, it would be the Thunder. I do feel like I have this like weird trust in Shea that's
uh huh,
like he's just gonna find a way to get it done. But I guess to go back to what I was saying, I think the earlier matchups, the experience doesn't matter as much because I mean you're just off the regular season. I mean, of course you know it's the playoffs, but it probably doesn't feel like a bunch of drawn out series. I mean, like playing 7 games basically back to back to back every other day against a team for up to 2 weeks or however long
mm-hmm.
the series takes, and then moving on to another team and having to fly back and forth and back, like that takes a toll on you. And I think for the first series, it's probably comes down to more like who's the better team. So like if you had to give me Thunder versus Warriors right now, that's like the first round of matchup, right? And it's like Thunder 1 seed and the Warriors sneak in, they're the eighth. Of course, I think the Warriors are going to win at least 1 or 2 games because it's Steph and it's Draymond in the playoffs, and they are tough. But that is more of a extension. I view it as an extension of the regular season where they've already shown that they're great. And we saw this last year too because the Thunder weren't first round exits last year either, and they were even more inexperienced last year.
Yeah.
Um, they I think when they go to the second round and the third round, then it becomes more apparent. If the Warriors are somehow the 7th seed and they beat the 2 seed, which I think would be the Nuggets, right?
It depends. And by the way, right now the Warriors have actually made it all the way up to 6. So I think they'll be good enough to avoid the Thunder for the first round.
Okay. Okay.
But let's say second round, Thunder versus Lakers, 1 versus 4. Should the Thunder be
then it
really worried?
yes. Like
Yeah.
it's like LeBron and Luca. These are guys that have gone to the finals and then won 4 finals, So and they're
Yeah.
playing together with JJ Redick as their coach. That is
So
like as scary as the Thunder coach. Continue.
we'll get to the Lakers in a little bit. But before we do, I just want to go back to the East. So yeah, the Cavs. I think in a Cavs versus Celtics series, I don't really think experience matters. I do think that the Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been to a lot of playoff series. Drew Holiday has 2 championships. Al Horford's an old guy. He's been here a lot of times before. You could say it matters, but like, I don't know. It's hard to say. Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen have all been in the playoffs before. Last year, they squeaked by the Magic and then got destroyed by the Celtics. Yeah, but they're a very different team than they were last year. Thanks to their new coach. That's the pretty much the entire reason why, as well as other pickups like DeAndre Hunter, improvements from guys like Ty Jerome and everything. So I just want to say, in a Cavs versus Celtics situation, okay, they're 2-2 in the season series. Let's see, the Cavs won by 7, then lost by 7, then won by 4, then lost by 3. Like, that's incredible, even parity. I think that if you think about the Cavs backcourt, which is Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, the Celtics are the most equipped to guard them by far, right? Because we have the
Absolutely.
two best defensive guards, 1-2 in the entire NBA. I'm firm on that. Drew Holiday and Derek White both made all defensive teams. Both were on the Olympic team. Like, come on, man, they are incredible players. And the more important question is, obviously, we don't play 2K, you know. It's not like the point guards guard each other, the shooting guards guard each other just like automatically. There's going to be a lot of screen setting and switches, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are incredible defenders for their sizes, and they don't get enough credit, frankly. Like, people have been throwing a lot of shade at Tatum his entire career, but I'll still say this right now. The man is a really good defender. And I think that, like, right now, for example, if we want to get into a Luka versus Tatum debate, I think Tatum is much more valuable as a player right now because of his defense. And that might change as the season goes on, by the way. Luka can come back. Anyway, in a switch scenario, Tatum and Brown can handle those small dudes, right? And I don't think there's a lot of other teams that can say the same, okay? But at the same time, the Cavs are also built to beat the Celtics. You have their new pickup of DeAndre Hunter at the trade deadline. Yep, that had him coming from Atlanta, and he is a man that can guard Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown when needed. I think mostly it will be Evan Mobley on them. He's their best defender, and he's the 4-man, but he can move over to Tatum in a situation like that. And so the defense is there. I think that a lot of their white guys off the bench can also guard, and they make threes, dude, and that's dangerous. They basically have their own version of the Celtics. Sam Merrill, Ty Jerome, Max Strus. Max Strus, by the way, is the guy who made all those threes against the Celtics on the Heat. They basically were like, okay, can you do the same thing for us? And I think he can, and that's terrifying because the Celtics have Pritchard and Hauser, and then our entire starting lineup can make threes. But, like, these are both incredible shooting teams and incredible defending teams. And also, their lineup is, big enough to try to neutralize the spacing thing that the Celtics have, where Porzingis can hang out at the 3-point line all he wants because he's such a good shooter. And they're able to guard us everywhere. Jared Allen can move out. He can stay in. It's honestly a sight to see, and I would like to prepare more to talk about it when the time comes. This would be a legendary matchup.
That would and this absolutely seems like something that's going to happen in this playoffs. Like
Yeah.
Whether it's there's no way it could be, as it stands right now, there's no way that could be the first or second round, but I could totally see an Eastern Conference championship, and it's these teams. If you're the one that's picking and you have to make a prediction right now, who are you going with? And this is assuming that Porzingis gets healthy.
Celtics. Sorry.
Okay.
Like, there's a lot of things that matter, right? And the other points I wanted to bring up is that I think that Porzingis would be the X factor. So I really do need him to be healthy because the Cavs are not that big. I don't remember how tall Jared Allen is, but he is their biggest player. And Porzingis stands over Emob and Jared Allen and shoots over everybody. And if he's healthy, he can, drop 20 on a consistent basis. I think that the Celtics will beat them. And there's a lot of other things that go into that. I hope that our main guys are healthy. Fortunately, they have been for all their playoff series their whole career. But actually, not all of them. We've had some mishaps, like Tatum in the finals. I remember that. But I think also the Cavs, like, we want to talk about minutes per game. I had looked it up beforehand. Right now, the top 3 guys on the Cavs, which is Garland, Mitchell, and Emob, average about 30 minutes a game. In the playoffs, that can be kicked up to 40, and all their numbers are going to go up, and they're going to be a bit more tired, but they're ready for that, and they're resting, and they're killing it in the regular season so that they can have this. Probably, honestly, I don't think the Cavs will even make it to 70 wins because they're going to give themselves such a buffer that they can rest for basically an entire week leading up to the playoffs. But, like, if you look at per 36 numbers for those top guys, they go up. That's how little they play. But anyway, yes, in this series, I would currently pick the Celtics, even though the Cavs have been a better regular season team. I think that the Celtics can prepare for them. But I also understand that it's very, very, very hard to go back to back in the modern NBA. And if this is the type of year where the Celtics just don't make it to the finals and we need a little bit of a break, maybe there's some other move. Right now, I think the Celtics are pretty perfectly constructed, but the Nuggets, they didn't make it back to the finals. The Warriors didn't make it back to the finals. Like this, if it happens, it's okay. But yeah, it's mostly
Yeah,
anything else on the Celtics and Cavs.
I would have to just say that I would also take the Celtics, but it would be like you always say, Celtics in 7, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think that, like, I think the Cavs just look so strong, but I'm always going to be someone that values the experience over it in a team. Um,
Mhm.
I think especially in a 7-game series in the NFL, which we'll get to later, it's a little bit different because it's one game. Anything can happen in one game. There could be a million factors that just all go into this one thing. When it's spread out over 7 times and the Celtics they have to get 7 chances to be consistent and play their game, they're
Yep.
gonna find a way to do that. And I trust a team that can shoot from anywhere. And when you hear the crowd when they play in Boston, it's like they
Mhm.
need only a tiny little bit of basketball that goes well, like a 3 that goes in or a dunk, and all of a sudden it's electric in there, and the whole team is playing like one. And that is way I think the chemistry aspect of it is just so powerful in the playoffs. That to me is more important and more significant for their success than having incredible players like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell and Emo.
Right.
So I would take the Celtics as well, but that does not discount the Cavs. In fact, if the Cavs go against anybody else in the East, I'd venture to say that I would take them. So
Of course. And I think the Cavaliers have incredible, incredible chemistry too. But I agree, and no disrespect to the Cavs fan base, but like playing Boston in a playoff series is a lot. And you just got to think what is going through the heads of those young dudes who have all this crazy pressure on them that they'd never had before. Even Donovan Mitchell, who has been in the league for a while and has been a top 10 player for a long time. Yeah, this is going to be another level of stress, which Tatum and Brown have already felt and already know how to deal with. So in the context of experience, I think it does matter. So yeah, we're gonna take a break. Then when we come back, we're gonna finish our NBA discussion about some other on the verge contenders, and then after that, perhaps talk about some NFL news. So we'll be right back.
welcome back to the Dagger. We just talked about MVP odds, the Celtics versus the Cavs, the favorites to win the MVP and the Eastern Conference and Western Conference. Now we're gonna move towards the Knicks. And I wanted to ask Ramsey if he thinks the Knicks are contenders. So, Ramsey, do you think the Knicks are contenders?
No, I do not think the New York Knicks will win the championship. I think there's probably like a 0% chance they do raise the Larry O'Brien this year. And I'm willing to put that on record, so I'm doing that right now. And that's a pretty crazy statement, right? Because the Knicks, when you watch them, they're a very, very fun team to watch. They are third in the East, and the third seed is never anything to scoff at. Um, right now, they're about 13 games behind the Cavs, but only about 4 games behind the Celtics, and so their records are not that crazy or different. But I think that with just a little bit of analysis, you'll find that this team is extremely flawed and has two huge weaknesses that can be exposed in the playoffs. So let me just talk about that for a second. First, before we get into the actual weaknesses, I just want to say the Knicks have not been doing a great job against over 500 teams. Okay, the Knicks record against over 500 teams right now is 13-16. If you want to compare that to the Pacers, by the way, who is a seed below them or 2 seeds below them at the 5th seed, the Pacers are 15-12. So like winning record, losing record. But that's no knock on the Knicks. The Grizzlies and the Nuggets, who are the second and third in the West, also have losing records against over 50% teams. But if you look at how the Knicks have done against the best teams in the NBA, they have been a little inconsistent. And it depends on how you cherry pick your stats, okay? So if you want, you could look at all the Knicks games against the Celtics, Lakers, Thunders, and Cavs, okay? They are 0-9. They have not won a single time against any of those teams every time they played.
And
However,
just want to point out, three of those teams or two of those teams have immense playoff experience, and that just kind of ties back to what we just talked about, playoff experience. Continue.
yes, Celtics and Lakers, yeah. However, when they played the Nuggets, the Bucks, and the Grizzlies, so those are the other seeds in the top 4, they have won every game. They're 6-0 or 2-0 to each of them. So that's a little strange. Overall against the top 4 seeds, they're 6-9, but I personally I think the only contenders are the Celtics, Cavs, and Thunder. And then actually we can throw in the Nuggets, and then we'll talk about the Lakers maybe. I don't see the Knicks there, but like of those top 3 clearly best teams in the regular season, Knicks can't win. In fact, they get destroyed on a regular basis. I don't know if you saw that Knicks Celtics game some weeks ago. They were losing by like 40 at one point, and they may have lost by 40. In the first quarter, they were losing by 20. Like, they just come out flat on their face, you know? So, all right, let's talk about the 2 biggest weaknesses. The first one, defense. You say defense wins championships? Then the Knicks can't win a championship, dude. Okay? On the season, they are 14th in defensive rating. 14th is average. And I don't think you can be average when it comes to the playoffs, right? But if
Absolutely not.
you want to do a little bit of a focus in February, and I don't know what the deal with the Knicks was in February, what injuries they had. They were second to last in defensive rating, 120. Yeah, obviously 120 is a really high number. That's terrible, terrible, terrible. And so, other things about defense, like obviously they have really gifted defensive players. OG Anunoby is an incredible defender. Josh Hart, incredible defender, really aggressive dude. He plays much bigger than he actually is. He's a great rebounder. That kind of falls under defense in a lot of ways. Mikal Bridges, who was an incredible defender for the Suns in the finals years ago, is now here, and he does his job. And I think that guys like OG and Mikal will be assigned to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in such a series. But who are the Knicks' 2 best players? Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. These dudes are not defenders. And we knew from the moment that they signed Cat that he was going to make their offense much better, but not help their defense at all. And we can talk about the offense all we want, right? Their starting lineup, which I mentioned the 3 dudes and then the 2 best. That is incredible. And playing Cat at the center is incredible for their spacing. All of those guys can shoot. And it's hard, really, really hard to keep track of them. We can talk about Jalen Brunson more, in another time about how gifted of an offensive player he has become over the years for this New York team. But the 3-point shooting is really good. I think the Celtics and the Cavs can stop that, okay? I think that the Celtics defense is incredible from everybody, and I think that they're able to neutralize the Knicks in most of those ways. And I think the Cavs starting lineup, with those 4 incredible dudes, the really good defending big men who can make it harder for Jalen Brunson when he drives, and versatile dudes like DeAndre Hunter, and off the bench, Ty Jerome, they can pick up anybody. And so I do not think that the Knicks defense is good enough to win in a playoff series. If you want to focus on Cat, by the way, in the 3 games that the Celtics have played against the Knicks, Tatum has held Cat to 40% field goal shooting, and Horford has held him to 37.5 in the specific possessions where they play. And there's about 10 minutes of sample size for each of them. So like there's plenty of possessions where they're guarding him. And Cat on average for the season is a 52% field goal shooter. So like they clearly have a pretty good impact. And I think Tatum will be assigned to Cat a lot. He's just a bigger dude. Porzingis is a little thin, but I do think Porzingis will get some blocks on Cat in the playoffs. We'll probably see that. But yeah, give credit to Tatum because he's going to be assigned to their best player, not named Jalen Brunson. And so, yeah, that's most of what I got about defense there.
So it's interesting to me. When I see Cat, I see a guy that's, I believe, around 7'1", and has kind of been able to use his size to bully his opponents on the offensive end.
Yep.
But I mean, 0-3 to the Celtics when they have a 6'10" Tatum on him, or Horford's around the same size. To be limited by 20% or more, which is what he's been limited to, like he's been limited by 20% of his original field goal percentage when he's guarded by these guys. That is not a small number. That's the difference between winning a game by 6 points or losing it by 6 points. It's right. Not a small margin in the slightest. I also wanted to say that when he goes against teams that have bigs, that can defend.
Hmm.
It's like you said, they're 0-9 against those teams. The Celtics have bigs that can defend. The Lakers have bigs that can defend. The Thunder have not the same level of bigs. Obviously, they have Hartenstein and Chet, but I just mean like their scheme is really more of what does the defending. But they can still defend against bigs. The Cavs can defend against bigs. And then you look at the Nuggets, the Bucks, and the Grizzlies. Well, Jokic has never been known for his defense, so it makes
No.
sense that they would have won some games against them. Giannis is a known great defender, but I'm guessing he's not put on Cat at all as often as he's put on OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges or more wing
Yeah,
defenders because of
I want to
Giannis'
say
speed.
that Brooke Lopez is more of the answer to Cat in those games, but I honestly can't talk much about them. And although fair to the Grizzlies, though, Jaren Jackson Jr., that guy might be the DPOY, so that's interesting too.
That's true, but also I don't think Jaren Jackson is that tall.
No, no, he's not.
That's my point is that even if they have some type of guy that can maybe stand a chance, Cat is able to bully them with his height. So when they go, they might be able to win their first game in the playoffs. But when they go against the Cavs, the Thunder, the Cavs or the Celtics in the second or maybe even third rounds, they're gonna be completely stopped, and it's gonna turn into the Jalen Brunson show, and he'll have to just chuck up threes or just try and create something, but it's not gonna work because the Celtics are, like you said, built to beat them. Um,
Right. And
I'm completely
so
with you on this.
So the defense, I think, is a big problem. I think you have to be top 10 in the league. Um, if you want to, by the way, limit it to top 7 in offensive and defensive rating on the season, only 3 teams satisfy that: Celtics, Cavs, Thunder. That's most of my argument. By the way, shout out to the Grizzlies, who are like really close in being top in both, but we can talk about them. I don't think they're going to be there. The other biggest weakness, and this I think is even a bigger deal than the defense, and a lot of people are probably expecting me to say this: their depth is one of the worst in the NBA. They are extraordinarily shallow. I'd mentioned the top 5 guys. Great, great guys. They play guys like Cameron Payne. They recently got Mitchell Robinson back. They have other dudes that are able to contribute off the bench when needed, but they almost are never asked to do that, okay? And if you look at every player in the NBA right now, minutes per game, first place, Josh Hart, 37.9 minutes a game. Second place, Mikal Bridges, same. Sixth place, OG Anunoby, 36.7. How is every player in the NBA, you have 3 of the top 6 minutes per game? Those 3 guys who I mentioned that are not Brunson and Cat, the 3 other glue dudes. And by the way, Brunson is 19th in the league, okay? And Cat is 34th in the league, okay? And they each have a
So it's not
35.
even like it's their stars that are being run down, which is like probably expected in the playoffs. This is their glue guys that play these
Everybody's being run
roles.
down, yeah. And
Yeah.
Cat and Brunson's numbers are also much higher, I think, than you would expect from another team. But yeah, I was filtering just to see, like, is this really that common? If Cat and Brunson both average 35 minutes a game, that means that the entire starting lineup of the Knicks averages more than 35 minutes per game. Let's take a look at every other playoff team in the league, like the other guaranteed top 6 on both sides, and see how many of their players average more than 35 minutes a game, okay? So here it
Okay.
is. The Cavs, Pacers, Thunder, Grizzlies, and Warriors have none, okay? It's incredible depth. Shout out to the Cavs and the Thunder specifically. This is a huge deal, the fact that they don't have to overplay anybody. The Bucks, Pistons, Lakers, and Rockets have 1. So there's one
And that
guy on
makes
each.
complete sense. We got
Yeah, there's one
Giannis,
guy on each of
Cade.
those teams where you can pick. For the Lakers, it's Luka. Actually, they've been downplaying LeBron recently. For the Celtics and Nuggets, it's 2, and that's also pretty obvious. Obviously, there's 2 top guys on both those teams. Jokic does not have to play. He does play a lot of minutes, but much less than the Knicks guys. And that's it. The Knicks have 5. 0, 1, 2, 5. That's enough of an argument. Like, I don't understand how a Knicks fan can tell me that they are well equipped for the playoffs. Like, you are not well rested. Tom Thibodeau is known for this, and that's his play style, and the teams do well in the regular season, but that it's not a good strategy recipe for the playoffs. Like, this team is going to be exhausted, and I think that if a single injury happens to a core dude, like the team they're taking, the team they're playing is just going to take advantage of it, right? So the first round, they're at this rate, they're probably going to play the Pistons. I think that'll be a fun series. I do think the Knicks will win that. I don't think the Pistons are there in experience, and overall, they're just the type of team that's going to lose in the first round. They're a fun team. I'll mention them, by the way. But the Knicks are definitely going to play the Cavs or Celtics in the second round. I don't honestly see a good reason for them to have a chance. And I think that they won't get swept, but I'm predicting like Cavs in 5, Celtics in 6. That's what I would say to that. Honestly, I think the defense and the depth, the two huge holes on the team. Like, yeah, I don't know. That's what I got for that.
I would have to agree. The fact that I mean, we see this all the time where like people that get overplayed, there's like a stress injury, and it might not even be anything particular on a play that something is dirty or
Mm-hmm.
like something like tangibly happens. We've seen injuries happen where people are just running onto the court and they just something slips from overuse and whatever. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs are a month to 2 month long stretch of back to back to back to back games, and if you're not rested as you are. I mean, if the role guys are that tired, I can't even imagine like they're not gonna have people that can just run up and down the court. They don't have a Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein that can play equal minutes and be rested and refreshed and ready to play. Um, this team seems like a team that needs another I don't want to say another superstar because I don't know if that's always the answer to just like stack as many people as you can onto one team because chemistry is such a big deal.
Nah, I
But
don't
they
think
need
so.
some kind of depth on the bench side. Someone
Yeah,
someone like Lou Dort, someone that can bring a defensive strength and defensive prowess, but also just like kind of relieving them and relieving their
yeah.
minutes.
I think I actually think that I think their guys like I described, OG, Josh, and Mikhail are kind of their Lou Dort level dudes. And many would say they're all three of those guys are better than Dort. I don't think this season they're playing better defensively, but like on an offensive side, you could probably say that, sure. But if you look at their bench, they have Deuce Miles McBride, who is a player that which I love watching, but like the man is not well equipped to lead an entire bench unit. Cameron Payne has been doing that quite a bit for them. Mitch Robb is actually we can talk about Mitch Robb, by the way, with the return of Robinson. He might be able to help pick up the slack that Cat has left on defense. We have not seen any of that though, so that remains to be seen. We can talk about that once we have more evidence. But yeah, Delon Wright, Landry Shamit. Those are basically Precious Achua. Precious is great, but like that's basically it. They need a facilitator for the bench unit, and by just adding a guy like that, and I don't even know what that would be. I remember like for example, the Nuggets brought on Westbrook to do that before he actually was put into the starting lineup. Like a guy
Yeah.
similar to that would take a lot of stress off of Brunson and just overall be able to rest their guys more. But that's not the style of Tom Thibodeau. He wants to win games. He wants to play his best players. And Josh Hart, like, and Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby are very, very tough dudes, and they will play every minute if they're told. But expect to see multiple games in the playoffs where those guys play 48 minutes. I'm not kidding. So, and that's not a good idea. Right.
Rest of your failure.
So that's all I got on the Knicks. I think they're going to lose to the Celtics or Cavs. Yeah. And sorry, Knicks fans. I do think this team can win a championship, but I don't think they're ready yet. I think they need to build a bit better, make a better bench. The defense is good or can get better, but we'll see. Okay.
Barring now
Nope.
barring no, this is a new topic now. Barring an injury that happened 4 days ago, 5 days ago, who is the hottest team in the league?
Hottest.
Yes.
Gotta be the
I,
Lakers, right?
yeah, it's our sunshine, LeBron James.
You are my
I want
sunshine.
I want to hear your opinion about the Lakers because now they're looking like a team that could make a run at this thing. And to me, like the Lakers before they got Luka, kind of gave off the same energy. And I know this is with AD and they still had two superstars, but it kind of felt the same way that the Knicks do now in that their starters are going to be run down. Like LeBron is going to play 48 minutes every playoff game. AD is probably close to 45. Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect and all their other role guys are probably going to be over 35 up to 40. Now they have someone that can give them the relief. That's a
Mm-hmm.
huge deal in a playoff series and in and the end of the regular season. And it seems like the chemistry between them is great. I've seen more Hail Mary passes from Luka to LeBron in the last couple of weeks than I've seen all year from the Lakers.
It's very scary. I know this podcast wasn't around when that Luka trade happened, but the first thing I did, it was past midnight on that Saturday. I FaceTimed you, and I'll never forget that moment, dude. And honestly, we can reminisce on like how crazy that was. I don't even know how to describe the emotions that we felt for an entire week. Like the entire NBA world knew that history just happened, and I was shaking, like freaking out,
Could
telling my
not
girlfriend, like, "What
believe
the hell?"
it. Yeah.
Yes. So, but okay, after we talked about it, we were like, the Mavs with AD almost might be built to win right now. Like, this is a good team. Kyrie and AD on paper. You got a small guy and a big guy. That's a pretty good recipe. These guys have both won championships. Like, okay, yeah, sure. Look, giving up Luka, no. But like, at least AD might help you win right now. We're gonna get to the Mavs to finish the episode, but like, I think we kind of were under the impression that the Lakers would not be competing for a championship yet because they would be gearing up for a decade of success with Luka Doncic, and LeBron would be passing off the torch. And it's okay if you guys don't have a big man now. You'll figure it out later. Then they tried the Mark Williams trade, which would have made them better now. It didn't work. But like, I don't think many people expected them to be this good. Obviously, we all knew we might be underestimating them because Luka and LeBron, some idiots were out there saying that you can't have both of these guys. They both need the ball. Come on, dude. Have people watched LeBron James play? He can do everything. He doesn't need
Everything.
the ball. He is so good. Like the two of them work perfectly together. And so I wanted to talk about that because you want to talk about hottest teams. The Lakers are fourth right now in the West. They were second like a couple days ago because the Grizzlies, Nuggets, and Lakers are all within a half game of each other. Oh, and the Rockets. Throw them in. They're like all within one game of each other, so it's very close. But the Lakers, last like recent games, they've been doing very, very well. I think that sorry, I'm just trying to pull up their last 10. What are they? Yeah, 8-2. Oh, and they lost the last two games, right? I think they were 9-1. Anyway, so we can talk about how the Lakers are going to do in the playoffs, right? With Luka and Braun on the court, they have an incredible rating. With Luka alone, actually, with Braun off, they have a really, really high net rating of plus 19, which we don't have a big sample size of. That's the best in the NBA, like for the season.
That's
And
higher than the Nuggets and the Thunder with their respective stars on the court, right?
yes, it's weird,
Wow.
but with Luka alone, the Lakers would have the best offense and best defensive rating in the league. And so you just think about that, and you're like, that doesn't even make sense. So I don't know if it does, but I do want to talk about this defense. We spent a little bit talking about the Thunder and how they don't need to have big men on the court to shut opposing teams down. The Lakers are doing that. Okay. Now here's a problem, right? I don't really think the Lakers can win the championship either. I'm very, very hesitant to say it. I'm more confident that the Knicks won't. I think that the Lakers are slightly above the Knicks right now just because of that top talent. Like, oh my goodness. But the Lakers are pretty small, okay? Their biggest dude, Jackson Hayes, he's 7 feet. He's their only rotation player that is 7 foot. Their next tallest player is LeBron James. Okay, 6'9", and then they have a bunch of guys that are like 6'7". Say Luca and Dalton Connect, Austin Reeves, DFS. They're 6'6", 6'5", 6'7" range, and that's perfectly fine. That's like an average NBA player, but like they're a pretty small team. Okay, and so you might be tempted to say that um if their tallest dude in the rotation is just Jackson Hayes, has been doing a lot better a lot recently, but objectively he's not that type of center. You can be a little afraid, but JJ Redick is a genius. Anybody who doubted him needs to apologize because this man in 1 year is clearly such an NBA nerd, and he's such a great guy to listen to, and with him and LeBron's podcast, even like that was crazy. But he's very, very intelligent. And so I think about that Nuggets game they played a couple weeks ago where they beat the Nuggets, and Jokic had a triple double, but he was held to, I want to say, like 13 points, I forget, and they lost. And so at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what stat line Jokic gets because he's going to get something great. But if you beat the Nuggets, you did your job. And Redick lost sleep. You know, he pulled all nighters preparing, watching film, and trying to figure out how to counteract this team. And so one thing that they did, for example, was like leave Aaron Gordon open a lot, and he made 4 threes. He shot pretty well, but their closing in on Jokic was able to neutralize a lot of the different possessions that the Nuggets had, and get a lot of fast breaks, I believe. And fast break with Luka and Braun, like, come on, nobody in the league can stop that. And so their defense is really good, and in fact, it's gotten better without AD. Is that crazy to say? It sounds crazy, but like, I think if you just look at the numbers, it's absolutely true, and it's because JJ Redick has kind of changed how he thinks about defense. And he used to have to involve AD a lot, and AD would be the guy to counteract some of the top center talent. But now you can run something completely different. You have a bunch of the smaller guys, again, not small, but like Austin Reeves is a much better defender than people give him credit for. Luka is
Mhm.
picking it up. LeBron might be on an all defensive team at the age of 40. Okay, like, these guys are doing their job, and JJ Redick is making it much easier for them. And so, you
I was gonna
know,
say that it feels like the rotation is like the biggest thing is that now AD is not forced to be like the big man defender that has to guard like Jokic and has to guard Giannis and has to guard the big guys. Now they're able to rotate
mhm,
around and use JJ's brain as like their advantage. Like that his
mhm.
ideas for like rotating defenses around and this is similar to the way the Thunder play is so much more valuable when you don't have a person that's stuck in their role. Like you could never bring AD out to the wing
I
to
agree with you.
guard to guard a point guard. But when you have a team full of 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" guys,
Right.
I mean, like high, they can do everything. And we also know LeBron to be someone that has guarded all five positions and has been listed as all five positions for games in the past.
Yep.
And they're all quick and like you said, on a fast break, who's going to stop the two of them? It's like it. When you look back at it, it makes complete sense that they traded away AD for Luka because and maybe JJ was thinking that he'd have a chance to run this scheme and that would be the thing that took them over the edge defensively. But I do remember, and we talked about this on that FaceTime call when we thought, oh my God, the Lakers are so dumb. They just let their best defensive player walk. The Mavs are going to be Kyrie and Luca. I mean, sorry, Kyrie and AD. They still have a great bench. They have an organization and a fandom that wants to win. And like
Yeah.
now looking back at it, I'm like, why?
Yeah, we were trying to defend the Mavericks, and we were convincing ourselves that the Lakers closed their short window to extend it in the future, but that's just not true. And yeah, also I want to say about the Lake Show, um, I think that their defense is incredible. Obviously, they're able to switch a lot, and yeah, if you want to talk about the great mind of JJ Redick, dude, like, not only do they have one of the smartest coaches in the NBA, but they have two of the three smartest NBA players on the same court. Um, if you have guys that always make the right decision, always know who to pass to, who to cut, and on defense, Luka's been a bit of a problem. And actually, I want to talk about this. Like, we we need to see a better version of Luka. I think that Luka is going to get better. I mean, post his injury that he's recently had, this is might be like a pretty rough stretch in his career. Overall, he's still an incredibly dominant player who can carry a team to a victory. And he carried the Mavericks to the finals on one leg, like a lot of people keep saying. By the way, shout out to the Mavericks for disrespecting that man. But he can do anything, right? And so I think that the man is a bit slower. Honestly, if you just look back at old tape from Luka in his rookie sophomore year, he used to dunk quite a bit. He used to not jump over guys, but like drive past them aggressively. Luka does that a way less now. I saw some stat recently that he hasn't had a dunk this season. I think he had like over 20 his rookie year. It's crazy to think about. But he can nail his step back over you, and make
He
signs
plays
and
like
face.
an old retired player that can still shoot like no one's business. But that's like it. He can't jump anymore. He
Right.
can't. I mean, he still facilitates offense in his own way. And I saw I want to say it was Jalen Brown talking about the rhythm of how people play, and it's like a musical thing. It's like
I saw that too.
and,
Luca plays
and
it on his own rhythm, right?
completely different. And I think that's why he's still so good. So even though he's having this rough stretch right now, I have no doubt in my mind that I mean for the playoffs and even in the last maybe 10 games of the regular season, they'll find a way to pick it back up. The other thing I wanted to say is when we saw this trade go through, the other thing that we thought was, like you said, this is an example of LeBron passing the torch to Luca. This is a new era in LA. This is going to be their future. They're going to set up their picks to build around him. Basically, what the Mavericks did, but just on a different team. But
Mhm.
LeBron has been the one until the groin injury. LeBron was kind of the front man even more than he was before Luca got there. At least it feels like it doesn't. It didn't feel like he was sharing space between Luca the same way he was sharing with AD. Now it's like LeBron had almost more free reign to go do crazy crap, and like Luca just feed him the ball and let him cook. And so the idea that LeBron can
Mhm.
still lead a team in points and in scoring and in like I don't want to say in like the vibe of a team, but in the vibe of a team is really scary because we know how quickly Luca can turn it around and just give you 30 or 35 or 40 or just like go off. The idea that both of them are like in different ways having a chance to enter at their peaks of the season going
Yep.
into the playoffs. Like we always talk about how important hot streaks are and like peaking at the right time. And this
Mhm.
is for all sports. Um,
Very.
the Lakers are peaking now at the right time. This is like the perfect time for them to start getting better and better.
Yes. It's sometimes just hard to say when you look at NBA history how a huge trade midseason a team can win like immediately. That's very, very, very rare. And usually there's some sort of season or two buffer for people to adjust. But yeah, since the trade, Luka and LeBron both are averaging about 28. Luka's right under a triple double. Meanwhile, LeBron is averaging like 11 rebounds and like 6 assists. Like the guys are doing everything. They're both playing about the same amount of minutes. But I think that I would say yeah, LeBron is still kind of the front man, and that's just weird to think about. But there will come a time very soon where it's really really easy to just make then Luka that guy, and the Lakers never have to play a minute of playoff basketball without one of those guys on the court, and so opponents should be scared. The only other knock I have on the Lakers right now is their 3-point shooting. Okay, the Luka and LeBron are obviously good 3-point shooters, but in their last 10 games as a team, they've been making about 14 on 40 attempts, and that's about 35%. That's just average. Okay, so I don't know if that will come back to bite them. They're just not excelling at it. The Lakers honestly haven't been built to make threes in a while. Just think about like that Russell Westbrook team; they couldn't shoot at all, and they're getting better. They're getting better, but like I don't know if that'll be a knock on them. I think the problem when you face a really good 3-point shooting team, like the Thunder, for example, it could be scary. And if they make the finals, the Cavs and Celtics are pretty bad matchups for the Lakers, but we'll talk about them when the time comes. Um, but yeah, if you were to see uh, Lakers versus Nuggets on a playoff bracket, who are you taking?
Lakers versus Nuggets.
I think that's the single hardest like pre-finals matchup in any conference right now.
It depends what round we're in. So if the
This would
Nuggets
have
right
to be
now,
the second round.
okay, I I'm taking LA.
Oh, you are.
I
Wow.
trust I trust someone that knows how to coach in the finals and also has played in the final or like in the playoffs in JJ Redick, and I trust LeBron. Like I really struggle to pick against LeBron anytime that he has in any competition. And you add Luca to that, and you add like Rui looks amazing, Austin Reeves looks amazing, Dalton Connect looks amazing. These are and Jackson Hayes is getting better. These are all guys that can do the thing. And like
Yep.
I've seen clips where it's like they make a great play and you have LeBron James looking at you like you're the man. I can only imagine what that makes you feel like. And like we don't have to keep talking about LeBron, but like that seriously, I'm a big believer in how important momentum is for teams to win games. And when you have a team and a culture that believes in their system, I struggle to I struggle to pick against that.
Fair enough. I think just to play devil's advocate, I would pick the Nuggets, but we'll talk about that more as the time comes. And yeah. Before we get to our last part of the NBA, I wanted to just mention other teams. At the top of the West, you have the Grizzlies and the Rockets, who are second and fifth. Amazing teams. Huge respect to the Rockets. By the way, the Rockets are on a slip right now. They're on a win 4 streak right now, but before that they had lost quite a few in a row, and they used to be second in the West, so they've kind of fallen from grace. And I think it's extremely likely the Warriors pass them in the standings, in which case the Warriors will make it to the 4-5 matchup rather than having to face a 3 seed. But the Grizzlies and the Rockets, while they are amazing teams, I just don't see the experience there, and I don't think they have the top talent necessary. Like the Rockets are a really talented team with Amen and
Jalen Green.
Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün. I mean, that team is perfect. Tari Eason, that was the name I was looking for. The Terror Twins, incredible defense. Former Celtics coach Ime Udoka has done a great thing. They will be very good, and I actually think they need an A1 guy. And we're gonna talk about KD trades in a future episode. Like KD to Houston is so likely. Like, oh my god, that would be amazing. But I don't know if they would do that. By the way, as for the Grizzlies, I don't think it's happening this year, guys. I think Ja has taken a dip, and I just don't think their team is built like that.
In the same way, they don't have an alpha scorer guy that can just be
Yeah,
the guy
John Morant
90%
is
of the
really
leagues.
good, but right now
Yeah.
for the playoffs, no. And honestly, there's other teams we can mention. The Bucks and the Pacers are in the East have been great. I think the Bucks have just fallen a little bit too far, and I don't really see them at the level of the Celtics and Cavs right now. I just don't. Kyle Kuzma, like, come on, that man cannot be your third option on a championship winning team.
Sorry,
The
Kyle.
the Pacers are great. The Pistons are amazing. The Pistons have been doing so well since the All-Star break, and they're so fun to watch. And we watched that Pistons Warriors game with our friends the other day. But I just don't see them winning a playoff series yet. Like, they'll be good though. I'm happy, very happy for Pistons fans. Their time will come. And
Yes.
hey, we're Magic fans.
Detroit is a city. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, we're Magic fans. This is not our year. It is time to give up, shut everybody down, sell the team, and tank for Cooper Flag. And it's too late because we're doomed right now to make it to the playoffs and get swept. And guess what? If the Celtics play the Magic, I'll try to go to a game. But like,
We
dude,
will try to go to a game. It's gonna
okay,
happen.
sure. But like, dude,
Yeah, we're
we'll talk
cooked.
about the Magic another day because they deserve a lot more analysis. Maybe we can bring a friend on. But god dang, that team has been bad. And okay, and then yeah, I think that's really all the side teams. But our last major team I want to talk about, Rajan, guess who?
The Dallas Mavericks.
Yes, the Dallas Mavericks, but also how about your
The
team?
Golden
You want
State
to do that first?
Warriors. Yes, let's do that first.
Okay, we can do either. But let's talk about the Warriors first.
Well, I don't know all the stats. I've just watched the games, and the Warriors look eerily similar to that old Warriors team when they'd be able to clutch out big games, and Steph is running all over the court, just moving around screens. I mean, we watched the Detroit Pistons game against the Warriors in person together,
Mhm.
and we kept talking about how much they were grabbing him and how much they're trying to physically contain him, and they just can't. And every time he comes off a screen, it has the tiniest amount of daylight. It feels like it's about to go in, and I'm not sure what percentage he's shooting at this year. I'm sure it's not obviously his career high, but it still feels like it's going to go in, and it definitely does a good amount of the times. And having Jimmy Butler there is like having Clay there, because
Yeah,
Clay was so the reason that team won the 2015 season, or that championship, and they had never, like you said, never made it to a conference championship before then with that roster. Um,
yep,
was not just because they had Steph, but Clay and Draymond were the top 5, maybe top 10 defensive players in the league, easily. Clay would lock down guards like no one's business. Clay is 6'7" and can also guard way bigger than his position.
right.
Draymond is also 6'7" and guards way huge. Wait, he should be a small forward, but he's listed as a power forward. He can play center. He can do it all.
He could do,
Like
yeah.
having Jimmy Butler there is like a revitalization and kind of like a reframe of that same idea of having Curry be your main guy and let Curry take the lead. And they have Gary Payton the second, and they have these role guys that can do the things that Sean Livingston did, and
Mhm.
like their old roster in the older days, like that was 10 years ago, 8 years ago. It is scary. I mean, for me, it's great, but it's scary. I think for the league to see a team that still has that defensive that oomph about them. Draymond Green is still top 8 in defensive player of the year rating or voting. That is ridiculous for a 35-year-old dude. That is like that is unheard of. And the fact that
Right.
they can still do all that stuff, like we were watching as well when they had Steph off the court and they had Draymond off the court and they had Jimmy Butler off the court, and they still found a way to get some offense going. And
Hmm.
and to me, if they can just maintain their scoring when they have their non-star and their non-key guys on the court, that makes them all the more scarier when they have Steph and they have Draymond. They have guys that can just pull up and just shoot and it'll go in.
Right. So let me throw some stats at you. In the last 10 games, which is mostly like has been since Jimmy came back. Well, before that, okay, for the season, Curry is averaging 24.5 points. He's shooting 45% regular field goal, 40% from three. Obviously amazing.
Incredible. Yeah.
In the last 10 games, 24.5 goes to 29.5. 45% from the field goes to 51% from the field, and 40% from three goes to 44. He's gotten so much better because of this whole gravity idea with Jimmy Butler taking so much stress off of him. And guess what? Jimmy's numbers have plummeted. All right, the dude, and he has great games, but the dude, that's not his job. He does not need to score, and he is so incredibly happy. Like this is an amazing thing for the Warriors and their chemistry, and the trade worked or is working. So,
The trade worked.
but I think they have some problems. Okay, in the last 10 games, before I get into the problems, I just want to shout out like the things that are so good with them. If you focus on the last 10 games, we've been talking about rating for a while. The Warriors are second in net rating, okay? They're between the Cavs and the Thunder in just the last 10 games alone. If you want to focus on offensive rating, the Warriors are third. If you want to focus on defensive rating, the Warriors are sixth, okay? If you want to focus on assist ratio, I'm not sure if you care about that. The Warriors are first. If you can pick cherry pick different stats to just show how good the Warriors are. And the problem is though, I just kind of want to take a look at what teams they've actually beat since Butler's debut was against Chicago on February 8th, and they have only lost 2 games since then. Looks about like I don't know, 13-2. I'm just guessing. Um, I don't honestly think they played very good opponents. I have this screenshot here that you're looking at. Um, they beat the Bulls and the Bucks. The Bucks, by the way, are a playoff team. That game, Giannis did not play. Okay, that's just the truth. They beat the Rockets, very good. They beat the Kings. They beat the Mavs, who have been beat up for a while. They beat the Hornets and the Magic, and the Hornets again. The Knicks, obviously, we talked about the Knicks' flaws, but the Knicks are good. They beat the Nets, the Pistons, the Blazers, and they even lost. The 2 losses were to the Mavs and the Sixers. I'm assuming the Mavs game might have been before the. No, it was after the Luka trade. Okay, anyway, so honestly, when I take a look at these wins, I hate to say it, and I don't really like when people talk about the strength of schedule, but I don't actually think some of these wins are very impressive. And I think that we need to look a little bit farther into the season to see how they do. But
Yeah.
from pure stats perspective, they have been beating up on these teams, and nobody can stop them. So I'm not knocking on that at all.
It's hard to say because yeah, the strength of schedule thing is a big deal. I mean, it's not you're right. People sometimes blow it out of proportion. If you're winning games, no matter what, the morale is high, the vibes are
Yep.
good. Jimmy's not upset because he doesn't have to carry the team anymore. Steph can do what he's always been born to do, which is shoot. The thing is, I look at their schedule coming up. So they have the Kings today at home. That should be a pretty easy win. But
Hope
then
so.
they go Knicks. It's hard to beat the same team twice. Nuggets, Bucks. I'm assuming Bucks will be with Giannis back.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Then they have a couple easy games, and then they go Grizzlies, Lakers, Nuggets, Rockets, and then they have a couple easier games to finish out the season. They have Suns and Spurs, Blazers and
Mm-hmm.
Clippers. But none of those teams are teams without stars. It's not the Utah Jazz they're going against, or the Pelicans, or the Wizards. All of these teams have incredible players that could totally give them a run for their money. And the other thing that these teams all have that the teams that they beat already don't have is people that can guard Steph. Like, if you look, okay, so Chicago, I don't think anybody can guard Steph in Chicago.
Nah, you can pick their best defensive players, but realistically, no.
Milwaukee, I mean, Damian Lillard is not stopping Steph.
That's true.
Houston, you could say Jalen Green and Amen Thompson are great defenders,
Yeah,
but they're
I think they
not.
would.
But
But
okay, so that's a one off game. But the rest of that list, Orlando, I mean, New York, we just talked about how they don't really have a great defense.
sure.
It's hard for me, even as a fan of the team, to say they can go in and beat people. The only thing that the reason that I still believe in them is because we know them to be a team that can do incredible things and things that you really can't explain, and there's not really any counter for that. Some of the shots, like I would say 70% of the threes that Steph took in that Pistons Warriors game were threes that if anyone else was shooting would be like, dude, this is like like a not good shot. This is an awful shot to take.
Mhm.
This is not a shot that you practice. Like, but it's Steph. And there's something about it that makes me want to believe in him and believe that they could just do it regardless of what these things say. So on the one hand, it's like, yeah, they're not going against teams that have great defenders against them and great competition and whatever. But it like it's like that freaking quote from I forget the guy's name on First Take, and he's like, "Fate of the universe on the line, and I'm taking Iguodala."
That was Max
I'm
Kellerman.
Oh, Max Kell well, I'm taking Steph. I really it's hard for me to argue against his history in carrying teams, and he carried this team to that finals win, and
Mhm.
that was with Klay Thompson on the team, who was notoriously having a much worse year than I would argue Jimmy Butler is having right now. I would say that Jimmy Butler has so much more potential now that he's in a better role for him, his play style and his age, you know.
Right. Um, some other of the key strengths that Jimmy brings to the team. He's a really good screen setter, and they've been doing a lot better job by improving their offense, getting more movement, more off-ball movement for Curry. I think he gets open a lot more. That's why he's getting those more attempts and shots. And you want to focus in on something else, you can talk about free throws, right? Jimmy Butler is very good at getting to the free throw line, and sometimes people hate him for that too. I just took a look. So before, if you look at free throw makes by team, the entire season, the Warriors are ranked 27th, okay? They've only been making about 16 free throws a game. Do you want to guess what they're ranked in the last 10 games?
Top 5 for sure.
You're right. It's third. They went from
Wow.
27th, which is fourth to last, to third. And if you hear the difference, it doesn't sound crazy. They go from 16 makes to 20 makes, 21. That is actually huge. And on a game by game basis, that is a lot of more times getting to the free throw line. And just making too, their percentage has gone up quite a bit, surprisingly. But yeah, Jimmy does a lot for them. He's making them better, and they are at a great place in the standings. I think I personally see them passing the Rockets. They're 3.5 games back. I don't know if it will happen. They're also tied with the Timberwolves. So honestly, there is a world still where they fall into the play-in. But to be fair, if the Warriors fall into the play-in and they play the Grizzlies in the first round, most people I think in the NBA world would probably choose the Warriors out of respect, and I might do that too. It depends on what state the Grizzlies are in. We talk about the hot streak and everything, but like, yeah, you were mentioning the whole Lakers streak and like, dang, these Warriors, these Warriors are peaking at the right time with their new lineup too.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I just want to say some of the weaknesses in general. Uh, I don't think they have very good size either. I don't also think that they have a very good third option. We just put a knock on Kuzma for the Bucks, but besides Steph and Jimmy, I don't know if I necessarily trust another one of their guys for the playoffs. I think Kuminga has to be very good for them, and he's been out for a lot of the season, and we need to see more of those three, plus Draymond, plus guys like AirPods who needs to improve, Moses Moody, Santos. I mean, like they have a lot of dudes, right? And so I don't know what to expect from them. I think their big men don't shoot very well, and
Mhm.
I don't know if that's going to be a huge problem. But they just need their bench to be more consistent, and that's definitely important because though to be fair, right now they are also underplaying their best guys quite a bit. Like Curry, Butler, and Draymond are all averaging about 30 minutes a game, give or take like 2 minutes, compared to of course the Knicks. Like these guys are not getting overworked, but I don't know how their bench is going to perform in the playoffs, but Steph Curry, famous playoff riser. Jimmy Butler might be the most famous playoff riser in the current NBA. Like, uh, the team is well built for the playoffs. So
Mhm.
I want to ask you, of the top 8 teams in the West, who do you think the Warriors are definitely? Who do you think the Warriors are losing to? Who do you think they're definitely beating? And who do you think they have a strong chance against?
So I would say they're definitely not beating the Thunder.
Yep,
They're definitely not beating the Nuggets, and they're definitely
I don't
not
think
beating
they
the
are either.
Lakers. Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like
honestly,
those three.
I put those three in the same category. I don't think that they're the tier of those three. That's pretty much it.
In terms of teams they can beat, we talked about the Grizzlies. I could see that happening, and the Rockets to experience.
Yeah, it
There's a lot
matters,
of
man.
experience in the Warriors. Yeah, I think that they could beat the Timberwolves as well. I could totally see a world where that happens. The Timberwolves, to me, seem like a team that get hot when Ant gets hot, but when he's not playing to his best and he's not knocking down threes and he's not doing crazy scoring stuff, they don't seem like a team with a lot of chemistry and a lot of identity together. They almost had more identity when they had Cat. They had a different personality. They had a different vibe. They had more tenacity on the offensive side. Julius Randle was a great scorer, but I saw someone say this. It's like he'll give you 20 points, but it'll be the quietest, most under the radar 20 points you'll ever see.
He does do
Um,
that.
so it's like I would take the Warriors to beat them. Um, in terms of the two other, so what are the other two teams that I'm missing in the West?
I honestly think that you covered everything. There's not really a scenario where they play the Clippers, who are at the 8 seed, unless the Clippers upset in the first round. And Kawhi has been on a tear, and so if they're super super healthy and strong, that's possible. But I don't really think we need to worry about that.
And I'm still giving that to the Warriors, even if it
Me
is
too.
against yeah.
Yeah, me too. So just for the Warriors, I would hope that they get a good first matchup. Like they get the Grizzlies or the Rockets, because if I was one of those teams, I'd be terrified. But if I'm Jokic and the Nuggets and I get the Warriors, who just came out of the play-in, like I'm honestly not that afraid for them. So whenever
Mhm.
that bracket comes, we're gonna spend a long time making it and talking about it here. But yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so I guess the only other thing we wanted to mention about the NBA before we wrap up is just shout out to Mavericks fans. I want to ask Rajan if you believe in curses, because I think that something has been, I think somebody stomped on some burial grounds somewhere. I think Nico Harrison sold his soul. I don't really understand what is happening. With that
Someone took some
trade.
kind of relic from Dallas, and they got to return it now.
Okay, like I've seen a lot of people do this, and so I just wanted to do it myself a little bit. Just talk, kind of list things that happened in the last month in Mavericks history. Um, just focus on February. Okay, February 1st was the day that the Mavs traded Luka to the Lakers, and since then it has gotten so much worse than they could have possibly thought. And here's some of the key things, right? They traded Quentin Grimes. Okay, a couple weeks ago, or
Great role player, by the way. Great role player.
great role player. A couple weeks later, Quentin Grimes drops 40. He drops 44 for the 76ers on March 1st. And by the way, that was your loss, one of the Warriors' losses with Jimmy Butler. So there's that. What else did they
Had to
do?
throw that in there.
What else did they do? So AD debuted on February 8th. He had an amazing game. I think he had a really good double-double at halftime, like 20 and 13 or something like that. He got injured. He got injured in the first game. You were trading because you thought Luka was injury prone and you thought AD would be more consistent. Everybody in the world knew reading that trade. Whoa, whoa. Disney? This man is built to break his legs. I'm sorry. Anthony Davis is so good. He is such a good player and defender. And he's been a top MVP finisher before. He was integral to that Lakers bubble chip. But like, oh my God, you have to be tripping if you think that man is healthier than Luka Doncic. Like, the guys both have problems. That is not solving it. Okay. And then what else happened? Right. Mavs fans chanted "Fire Nico." They held protests outside the stadium. There was I think a coffin at one point for, I don't know,
Oh my
Luka.
god.
Um, the SMU student section, which is in Dallas, I believe, Nico Harrison went to a game there, and they were chanting "Fire Nico!" Like all the college fans who are Mavericks fans were like, "Dude, get out." Um, let's see, other things happened. I sent you that video, like the Mavs posted of like hyping up the season, showing their new players. They like
Yeah, yeah.
edited Luca out and like put a
Yes.
silhouette there. That was so weird. Why are you disrespecting him this much, right?
It feels like there was like some kind of hidden aggravation, like there's some kind of hidden agenda against Luca now because
Yeah.
why? Like I mean that like trading him, sure. If that's the best decision that you decided to make for your franchise, then that's fine. But to change the original team's thing and put a silhouette, not even like I think it would have been better for them to just cut him out of the whole thing. Putting a silhouette
Yeah.
there makes it feel like he's not even a named person.
Yeah, I would have if they were hyping up their new team. Just don't include any clips with Luca. That's not very hard. There are a lot of minutes that you can show, but instead they're trying to throw shade at him. And I mean, honestly, I wish we could spend more time, and we're not going to. But like, I would love to talk more about all the reasons that they have stated they traded Luca. Talking about defense wins championships, talking about his conditioning issues. Um, it's just unbelievable how much they disrespect him, and I do think that they kind of hate him. Like there's
Mm.
something going on, like a personal conflict among the Mavs front office, Nico especially. Um, and then other things that have happened. The Mavs played Luca and the Lakers, and Luca dropped a triple double, and the Lakers won. That was in February, and one of the best games left in the regular season. Keep it out. I Can you look this up for me, Rajan? I think it's in
Sure.
April, but it's Lakers versus Mavs in Dallas, so we're excited for that. And then other things,
April 9th.
April 9th, yeah, we'll be watching Luca in Dallas again. That's going to be absolute cinema. But the Mavericks are going to be terrible, and guess why? Because Kyrie Irving tore his ACL. And I'm sorry, I don't want to laugh. I really don't want to find it funny, but some curse happened, and it's not Kyrie's fault that he got injured, but also Kyrie was playing the most minutes in the league after Luka was traded. You want to talk about the New York minutes? Kyrie was averaging more minutes than all those New York guys after Luka left. And yeah, stress injury, right? That's what you mentioned.
See it all
Like
the time. Yep.
it's just things happen like that happen, right? And so other
What
things
an
they've had
awful stretch.
they had awful severe injuries like Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. And recently they were entering an NBA game with 8 players. Like you need 15 players usually to comprise a team. That's how many injuries they had. And in the middle of the game there were 7. And there have been NBA games before. I remember watching a YouTube video like a few years ago about an NBA team that had to forfeit a game because they only had 4 players, and it had to do with fouling out. That was the main reason why they had injuries, and then they had guys foul out, and then they literally ran out of guys, and so then the ref kind of let them like play another guy. Like the Mavs are in a dangerous like historical scenario, and they also increased their ticket prices. Um, I don't know. Honestly, I'm so thankful I am not a Mavericks fan, and I feel so incredibly bad for people that have been a Luca fan since he was drafted in 2018.
And thought it was an
And
extension of Dirk and like Eastern European guys in Dallas. There was a whole vibe with that.
right, and they overlapped for a year, and there was this clear passing of the torch, and this guy was so incredibly good. He's made All NBA first team every year except his rookie year, and I think Luka will win an MVP. He's not in the conversation now because of his injury, but if he gets better, if he gets healthier, like I mentioned before, he might be
And when
in the.
LeBron retires.
And when LeBron retires, and the man in LA, they want to see him get MVP. And of course, the NBA loves this because now we have this Lakers revitalization, and Lakers versus Celtics is a rivalry that features Luka versus Tatum again. Like all of the storylines. But anyway, if any Mavericks fans are listening, my heart goes out to
Rest in
you.
peace to you guys.
Yeah, and I mean, what the equivalent for me would be like if Tatum got the Celtics obviously are really good without Tatum, so it's not really even a fair comparison because Luka's obviously the best guy on the Mavs. But if Tatum was traded for some old injury-prone dude, I don't know what I would do, man. I don't know.
This feels like the same level of heartbreak as throwing the ball on the goal line instead of running it with the best running back in the league. Completely different sport, but it's the same level of gut wrenching. Like, holy crap, what did you guys just do? It feels like there's some kind of corruption in the front office of Dallas that's like trying to tank this franchise because regardless of
Yeah,
this, like separate from the trade, raising the ticket prices by 8% after your biggest star and a top 3 player in the league goes away ridiculous.
I
Uh,
I would love
we're getting
to.
rid of Lucas's thing on the video, like a
Yep.
silhouette of Luca. That is ridiculous. Anyways,
I would love to put on a tinfoil hat with you and talk about the conspiracy to move them to Vegas, but we can do that in a future episode. Anyway, you were hinting at the Seahawks, so why don't you give the folks a preview of what's to come?
yes, NFL podcast in the next couple days.
Or
We're going to
maybe
be talking about.
when they're listening to
Oh,
this.
when you listen to this, you'll also see the NFL podcast, and it's going to be me going absolutely bonkers over what the Seattle Seahawks just did. We traded Geno, we traded DK, we released Tyler Lockett. There's no like it is so hard to explain how I feel right now. I can't tell if I should be super excited or like depressed again. But regardless, it's a change in Seattle, and whether that'll be a good change or not remains to be seen. We'll also talk about how great and how scary the Vikings are, how scary the Steelers could end up being with the two biggest crash outs in the league on the same team, competing for the same jersey number. What?
Oh, dude,
It's going to be
those
crazy.
memes are great.
You're going to want to tune into it.
Yep.
But that's all we got for now for the NBA talks. It's been
Yeah.
a fun first podcast for us.
Thank you for listening to me. I know this has been a long pilot. We got a lot to say about the NBA. We're going to be integrating more NBA and NFL commentary into our future episodes. But we hope you enjoy the double feature, which is to come. And yeah, NFL free agency. That's going to be fun to talk about. So I'll let you take the lead on that one. But
Sounds like a plan. This is the Dagger signing out.
thank you guys. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.